Yo, what you know about an Afro beat? Kids dancing on streets, wasn't just me. Blasting from the house, music sis was a G. Still his big team, yeah, I'm fry on repeat. Ma says, hope you get what you seek. Ready for a feast, been dinner too long, now I'm coming as a beast. Drink stout, heavy on scene, on mind everywhere to be like. Stood next to African trees, shaking off mango was a dream. As you know, it gets cold, need cream, and that's reality. Now I had to grab a seat. High life and then I felt clean. So I was about before I couldn't do no meet and greet. Felt low, but now it ain't peak. Just a hungry brother, let me eat, yeah. Sure, I could do it for myself if I... I could do it by myself. Sure, I could do it for myself. If I had the right team, I would really love the help. Looking at me, strange pressure waiting for the bell. Is it gonna be solo? Hope at some point they'll join. Got caught in the rain, but came back to vibes. Enjoy it for a minute, man, just sit down, remain. The right team of people that really can stay. Maybe someday. No dots, still ain't missing them frets. Nearly hit a lick, but I thought not yet. Guitar talk, never mind, let's step. Sort out the hair in the mirror, well kept. Already seen agendas with people I ain't met.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome. This is Night TV. I'm presenting Charmain Berry on the telly with our regular Saturday morning show, and we have a really fantastic show lined up for today. I just want to say a big thank you to the crew sort of playing the music there, intro, and we're going to talk about that in a little minute. But I'm just going to introduce our special guest for today. I've got joining me here in the studio there at Naya, we have Nick Napier, also known as the Lousy Badger. Hi, Nick. And later on, we've got Gary Washington, excellent musician. We've just heard him play there a little bit on the intro. He's going to be joining us in a little while. So, yeah, let's just come to that piece of music from, that was a recording from last night, Nick, just before we talk about you. Can you just share with us a little bit more about what that was and what the event was?
Okay, so yeah, good morning. The show last night was called Purpose, and it's one in a series of shows called A Series of Unfortunate Events. A little bit of irony, obviously, because of the COVID situation. So this is just a series of events ranging from theatre performances to music performances, poetry, a range of creative exploration, really, done in a live stream environment. So performed in the theatre, but using different technology to what most people have been used to using. So it's been a creative exploration for the centre itself, and then for many of the people that work at the Naya. Last night's specific show was Purpose, and this was really a celebration and an exploration of Black-led creativity. celebrating kind of Black beauty, Black artistry, the history of Black culture through dance, through poetry, through jams, through hip hop. All wrapped up nicely with the Untold Orchestra and the Transcendental Quartet with Gary Washington. So the piece that you heard there was two close friends, Yemi Balatoa. Let me give you that right. It's not Yemi Balatiwa. Sorry, Mayo, that are from a little collective called Not for Many. And then the music and arrangement was done by Gary Washington. And I saw the performance last night. It was great. It was a real good mix of dance, conversation, there's a number of interviews with some of the artists, and then kind of like the live performance side. And I think they've been a success. I don't know. I think you've seen some of them.
Yeah, I caught a bit of that last night as well. It just absolutely incredible. Yeah, and people can. I think it has been a huge success, and people can watch that as well if they go to the NIMOS group page. The links are there for anybody who wants to catch up on the whole series that's been running over the last few weeks. Yeah, it's been incredible. Thanks, Nick.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about you. I just want to thank you for coming on the show and for being here. And yeah, you are I think of you as like an activist and just a really good person, basically, like looking out for the world and seeing what you can do, on behalf of people and speaking out. And you're also, I realized this week, an incredible presenter. And an artist and poet, and want to talk about all of those things. But first of all, can we just talk a little bit about you and your background? And I know you've got a really incredible story, overcoming adversity and really, really difficult circumstances, and which have led you to where you are now. But yeah, what can you tell us about that, and just a little bit about your upbringing and sort of things, how things unfolded for you?
Yeah, okay. So I was born in Salford. Yeah, born in Salford, lived there for not very long. Born there, but lived there for a lot of time. Spent most of the time in Prestwich, and so in and around Manchester. A fairly good, well-off working class background. My dad was a printer, he was a miner. My mum was a midwife. They were very hippie, very liberal, so fairly balanced upbringing. I mean, I think I was very lucky in that I had two parents to start with. Moved over to East Yorkshire, where they opened a health food shop and a vegetarian restaurant, and so was kind of in those kind of like hippie vibes, stuff like that. Drugs were quite freely used within my household, and there was always adult conversations about those types of things. Sex was quite liberal with my parents. And their friends and their group of friends. So you probably call it like a poly relationship that my mum and dad had, even though they were married for 25 years. I grew up in the theatre because my dad was a director. He was an Amdram director, so obviously he earned his crust doing printing for the Guardian. So I've always kind of had a relationship with words and performance, and I think that really shaped a lot of my personality and my interactions with people is about expression and performance. On the whole, I had a really wholesome upbringing. I got no complaints. It'd be nice and easy if I could put some of my stuff down to like some real horrible childhood trauma, but I didn't have that. I had a very steady upbringing. When I was about 18, I left as soon as I could, because Yorkshire was quite a small-minded kind of place. Moved back to Manchester and on to London, and did a bit of a tour of the country in terms of where I lived. And then somewhere in between that, the drugs took hold, and I had nearly a 20-year relationship with heroin. That followed me about up until sort of 5 or 6 years ago. My mother died when I was about 25, so I came back to Yorkshire to kind of stay with my dad. And then met my wife to be at that point, and then was married with my partner for 12 years. Held a steady, normal job. mainly to service my heroin addiction. So I just needed money. I was a shit criminal. So and the thought of going to jail was not a very appetizing one. And so I worked.
What was it like working and just being in that like really it's what sounds like conventional world and just mixing with those people and getting on with stuff with the heroin addiction in the background?
Difficult because you want to engage and you want to be part of society, but
yeah,
you have like this little secret in the background that you can't tell anybody at work because it would just be it'd be self-destructive.
Yeah.
So you want to go out on nights out, but you know that at some point during that night you're going to need to do heroin, and how do you explain that to somebody?
Yeah.
So I mean, heroin's an isolating drug at the best of times. But I think when you're a functioning addict, it can become even harder. It can be more isolating, in fact, because you don't associate with the drug addict peer group, and you can't associate with your work peer group. So you end up not being able to associate with anybody. So it becomes a very kind of like lonely addiction. And it was tough. Yeah, it was tough. But you make it work.
Did your partner know? Did your wife know?
Oh yeah. No, I was a heroin addict when we met. I'd been a heroin addict for about 5 years when we met. No, she was very, very supportive. I wouldn't have stayed with me for as long as what she stayed with me if the shoe was on the other foot. So I have a lot of love for my ex-wife. It was never gonna be a life thing, and that was because of the addiction. She was married to the addiction. She wasn't really married to me. So I worked in call centres. Still tried to do my art. I DJ'd quite a lot, did a lot of production. But obviously couldn't give it my kind of art its full effort because of the fact that I needed to service the addiction. And then me and my wife separated, and I opened up a consultancy firm doing change management. So looking at organizational behavior and how you look at culture change, done using kind of occupational psychology and behavioral psychology, and looking at how we help organizations change normatively rather than telling organizations what to do. I did that for a couple of years. I worked for Greater Manchester Police. I worked for Staffordshire Police as well, doing that on two of the biggest change programs in the Northwest. And then it all came tumbling down. So I was earning that much money that my addiction went through the roof. I was on the best part of, I was on £2,000 a week, and I'd never known that type of money before in my life. And of course, it was always going to end badly. And then it did. I ended up losing the house, losing the job, and woke up on a park bench. Well, not a park bench, a bus stop bench in the middle of just near Deansgate, with all my stuff kind of piled up in bags around me. And the realization suddenly hit me: fuck, I'm a heroin addict, and drugs are my problem. And then within 2 months, I just decided, I'm just going to quit. I've done enough. I've been in treatment for 12 years and it not done anything. And the realization just hit me that no one else is going to do this for you. It's got to be you. The time had come, and I just got bored. I got really, really bored of it. So often lived on a boat in Abingdon in Oxford for 3 months. Just did it clean, just stopped everything. So it was then the next couple of years were me just wondering, right, well, now I'm clean, what do I do? I thought the hardest thing was going to be getting clean. And it wasn't. The hardest thing is rebuilding your life, because your life up until that point is just about the addict. I think that was, I'd realised that there's lots of things that I'd never done clean. When I say clean, I mean just off any drug. So since being, say, 16, I'd smoked weed every day. I'd gone out every weekend to nightclubs. We were DJing, we were running events at quite a young age. And then through to being 19, 20, 21 and doing the heroin, I realised that there was loads of normal stuff that everyone would take for granted that I'd never done just normally. So I'd never gone to a library not on drugs. I'd never gone to a restaurant not on drugs. I'd never had a relationship not on drugs. My relationship with my family had been based on drugs since becoming a really young adult. And suddenly when you're faced with that, and then you're suddenly clean and you're not doing anything, and I was completely sober at the time, you realise that life's a bit boring at times. And I was like, Christ, what do I want to do? None of this like interests me anymore. My interest has been getting high for all that time. And I was quite good at it. So what do I do now? And so I milled about for a couple of years, and then happened to bounce upon a squat called the Corner House, where I met Janie. And I was just blown away. Someone was saying, "You've got to come and see this. They're making a nightclub in the squat." I was like, "Nah, that's just ridiculous. What are you on about? Squats are full of punks and heroin addicts and speed addicts. Why do I want to go there? That's the complete opposite of what I want to be, where I want to be." And I got convinced and taken down there. And I think the first thing I saw when I got in the squat was a free shop. And I was like, "What's this?" And he was like, "Oh, well, you can come and give some stuff. And if you want to take something, you can take something as well." Well, I can just take it for free. And they're like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, I ain't got anything to give." They're like, "Oh, that's fine. Okay." And then I looked to my right and they were building a cinema screen. And I was just like, it was like, moment. And then I saw Janie milling about and I was like, how'd you get involved with this? And she was like, "Why do you want to know?" I was like, "Oh, okay. Who's this? Who's this woman?" Right in my face. Well, I'm interested to get involved. She was like, "What's your background?" So I kind of gave her the tale that I told you. And she was like, "I think I've got just the job for you." And she asked me to come on and help her with the program management, so the managing of the timetables and the acts.
Yeah.
And I never went. At the time, I'd just moved into my grandfather's, and I wasn't street homeless anymore. And I rang my granddad the next day and said, "I'm not coming back home. I'm living in a squat." And then I've been in a squat and kind of found, I don't know, I hate to say it because it sounds so egotistical and cheesy, but a bit of a calling around that type of, looking at communities, autonomous spaces, and kind of like radical thinking and being active. I don't really like the term activist. That takes away stuff from everyday people. We all should be active. You don't have to be an activist. We should just be active in some way. So that kind of then takes us up to today, really. Yeah. Sorry, I can waffle on quite a bit.
Oh, it's great. It's great. I'm just loving all this story, and just how that kind of preconditioned or like stereotypical like idea that we might have about squats and people in squats, and then you sort of like discovering the essence of it really, and that sense of community and help there. And you told me a really nice little story about what your stepmom said about giving something back, or
that's right.
Up a little bit there.
She I kind of blagged quite a bit of money off my dad when my contract was coming to an end with GMP, and it was a couple of grand, and we didn't really speak for a while. And then once I became clean, I got back in touch with him, and I've always had a good relationship with my dad, but obviously this was a bit tense because of all of that. But they welcomed me back into the family home and everything was cool, and the money was never mentioned. And then as I was leaving, I went and spent Christmas there. He's literally within a couple of weeks of me being clean. And I'm going back home, and my stepmom sits me down and says, "Right, look, I know we've not mentioned anything, but we do need to talk about what's happened in some way. We're here to give you love, and we're here to support you. We know we're not going to get the money back. We're not actually really bothered about the money, but can you just do us?" Okay, she actually said me. She said, "Can you just do me this one favour? And that is all of the shit that you've gone through and all the crap that you've done and all the lies that you've told. Can you make sure that you share that knowledge with other people? So can you make sure that you turn this seemingly shit situation into something positive and something good?" And I mean, what do you say to that? You can't say no, I'll pay you back the money. You can't, can you? And so it's like, right, okay, well, whatever it is I'm going to do, and I don't know what it is I'm going to do, But I just need to make sure that I don't lie anymore, that I'm honest about who I am, try and be as honest as I can about my feelings, and then be really readily available to share any of the crap that I've done or been through, in order so that if there's a 20-year-old me out there that happens to come to one of my poetry gigs, happens to come to a squat or something at the Naya, and can hear me talk about my experiences, and that either informs them so they can make an actual decision, or it puts them off some of the stuff, or just and enables one person to know, okay, somebody else in the world is going through the same stuff that I'm going through. And if that just touches one person, and I think that's what my stepmom was going on about. It was just try to make something positive out of what is seemingly a negative. Because I have no regret. I have no regrets about my heroin addiction. If I hadn't been addicted to heroin, I wouldn't be sat here talking to you today. I would have had a totally different lifestyle. And so I feel blessed that I learned that lesson. It was a long, tough lesson. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure the universe could have maybe thought of a more creative and shorter way of teaching me that. But I feel blessed that I went through that, because I wouldn't have met all the beautiful people at the Naya. I wouldn't have come into contact with the politics and the community stuff, were it not for being in that situation. So thanks, Mum.
She sounds lovely. Yeah, and just talk about the politics. When we met earlier on here, you were just telling me about what was happening this morning.
Oh yeah. No, I had a new experience this morning. I was threatened with an ASBO by the Labour councillor Pat Carney. I'm guilty at the moment. Not for what you think though. That was I was in town having a McDonald's. So I'm sorry to all my fellow squatters and the politics around McDonald's. Guilty as charged. I was having a McDonald's. I was hungover. My mate was going to Ireland, and we were having a McDonald's. However, what I'm not guilty of is the ASBO charge. So we're sat there having a sausage and egg McMuffin. Christ. We sat there with a sausage and egg McMuffin and a coffee, and I look over to the left in Piccadilly Gardens, and I said to my mate, I said, I'm pretty sure I know who that is. There's a TV camera crew there. I'm pretty sure I know who that gentleman is. I think it's Pat Carney. So for those people that don't know or that do know, Pat Carney is a Labour councillor. He's kind of one of the three amigos with Richard Lees, Bernstein, and Pat Carney. They've kind of ruled the roost over the Labour Council for the last 20 years, by and large. So I got my phone out, I Googled Pat Carney just to make sure, I did my images check. Sure enough, there we go. And I just couldn't help myself. I've been waiting 5 years to see one of these guys in the street where they're not in a public hall, and so they can deflect attention to the questions you ask, or they can ask security to ask you to leave. So I've been waiting for a long time to see one of them just on the street where I could go up just mono a mono, speak to a guy and say, well, I won't tell you exactly what I said, but it began with a C and it ended with a T. Fill in the other letters as you see fit. But these three amigos, Pat Carney, Bernstein, and Sir Richard Lees, have basically overseen the what I would say the rape of the city over the last 20 years. There's been a systematic push of working class people out of the city, and the extending of the boundaries of the city centre to encroach into Hume, into Ancoats, going into Cheetham Hill. Poor areas where they're just gentrifying these areas with £1 million flats. And my beef with Pat Carney this morning was that I wanted him to answer and give me answers as to why there's no socially affordable housing being built in Manchester. So why have we got capital-centric urban splash, Canadian developers, Saudi Arabian developers, people from Dubai developers, kind of East Asia developers? Why is it that they're continually being allowed to build big multi-story flats
Yeah.
They are registered offshore, so they pay no capital gains tax. They pay no tax on their revenue because, again, they're registered offshore, so we don't have the corporation tax that comes on it.
Yeah.
They're then given big developments here, and they've been given money from the housing fund, the Manchester Housing Fund, I think that's what it's called, and they've been given donations from that. So not only are they not paying any tax, and they're getting donations from us to come in and build big developments that are predominantly unaffordable flats for the majority of people who live in this city. And then they're dodging their responsibilities under something called Section 106 of the Housing Act, which says that as a developer, you have a responsibility for, if you're building a certain amount of flats or housing, so much of it's got it's got to be affordable.
Yeah.
It's got to be affordable housing. So they have something called the viability test, and that viability test looks at how financially viable is the development. Well, a cottage industry has developed around these viability tests where you can now go as a developer, you can type Google online and say, I'd like to get out of my obligations under Section 106. And you can literally type this in Google and it will come up with a series of companies that tell you how to cheat the viability test.
Wow.
So my beef with Pat Carney and with Richard Lees is, how the fuck is that being allowed to happen? How is it that these guys are paying no tax, no capital gains tax, no corporation tax? They're getting backhanders from us, and we're allowing them to cheat under their obligations to Section 106. And all he could do was come over to me and say, if you ever interrupt an interview that I'm having again on television, I'm going to find out who you are and I will get you banned from the city centre. And that was his view. And he called the cops, and the cops came. And the cops kind of like looked at him and said, well, it's kind of freedom of speech. You know, he's not been violent. He's actually been quite articulate. Okay. He's apologized for using a word that began with C and ended with T. But even they found that funny. So that was something new for me. I've never been threatened with an ASBO. Even when he was a heroin addict. It's curious, isn't it? You know, he suddenly politicized and now you get being threatened with an ASBO. That was my morning. So it was a great morning. Honestly, I've waited a number of years to see one of these guys, just get them in a place where they couldn't do anything. They literally couldn't say anything. And not only that, it's fucking Sky News as well. You know, another corporate organisation that's just a mouthpiece for another set of rich white old men.
Yeah, same with the BBC as well. You found yourself inadvertently in the Manktopia program, the documentary that they've been making that they've aired this last few months as well, about the developments in just exactly what you're talking about there, with featuring one particular developer. And I don't think you've seen it yet. Did you say you've not had a chance to?
No, I did actually watch it. Yeah, I watched it. So yeah, it's Tim from Capita and Centric. I mean that development in Piccadilly is a £1 billion development. I think they're spending around about, I think it's 450 million on that development, and it is in a fairly decrepit, deprived area of Manchester. But a lot of that, so the red light district is always going to exist. So if people do, I don't know if people know that area. So around Piccadilly, that's where you get most of the working people. Working girls, working boys, working women, working men, and there's a sex trade that goes on, and obviously there's a drug trade that goes on around that. That's always going to exist. It doesn't matter whether you develop that area or not. That problem will just move somewhere else. Fact. But what they did with that area was they bought up all those businesses, and so the businesses moved on, and then they just left them derelict until they bought enough of them so that the whole area they could develop at once. So when they talk about renovating a dilapidated area, well, it didn't used to be. There used to be businesses there until you bought them, and then they moved out, and then you left it derelict. And so you made it even better for the working girls and the working men to come into those areas because there was less people around, there was less visibility. And this is what Tim doesn't understand, is that he talks about renovating a shit area of Manchester, but he helped make it shitter in the first place. And they're £1 million, some of these are £1 million flats and apartments. And I think in the second series of that, you see that they didn't even really sell that many. You got like the first urban park there, and that's all great. You know, it sounds really good stuff. We want the city to be better, but that just because we have a flash house and a flash development doesn't mean the city's better, because all those working girls and all those working men will just go somewhere else. So you just move the problem on. So you're not dealing with it. I want, you know, we can get into the debate of the whys and wherefores of the validity of the sex trade and if it should be allowed or not. I don't really want to talk about that. But what I'd like to talk about is the fact that these developers they're preying on parts of the city, and they're preying on working people. And, you know, he can tell me he's from Salford, or he's not actually from Salford, he's from fucking Eccles. He's not even a real Salfordian, but he tried it with me because he knows I'm from Salford. And they have no concept. I mean, probably did at one point, but they don't have any more. No concept of what they're doing. Manktopia or Manhattan. That's the other term I've heard.
Oh, I've not heard that one.
Yeah. Well, you look at the skyline now. I mean, we've got skyscrapers,
isn't it? It's getting there. Wow. We've got about 10 minutes left, Nick. But I just I wanted to talk a little bit about what you're doing at the moment, because I know that you're located at one of the protest sites around the HS2 railway line projects that's running across the country. And it'd be great to hear a little bit about that and what that's like. Can you tell us a little bit, though, first of all, about the actual project and, you know, what this story is that's being pushed out and the narrative about the need for this and this high-speed rail network joining the whole country up, and actually what the implications for that truly are in terms of the environment, and perhaps even relating to sort of culture and how this is going to change the face of the UK potentially. But what's going on there, and what does that mean?
So HS2, High Speed 2, it's the second phase of a high-speed rail strategic plan that's gone on for a number of years. It's basically, the premise is to link the south to the north so that they can still use the economy in London, because it's so densely populated at the moment. They don't really want anybody else living there. It's getting too much. So if you can get from Birmingham or Manchester quicker to London, you're going to be more keen to work in London because you can get there quicker. Also, they're trying to make a northern powerhouse. So Manchester will become the kind of back garden or the playground of London. And what they're doing is they're selling this on the basis that you can get there 40 minutes quicker. Now, currently it takes, I think it's about 2 hours. 2 hours. 2 hours, 30 minutes on the train.
Less than that, you can do it in 2 hours. Yeah.
And it's pretty good. It's really easy jumping. There's one every 5 past every hour, I think it is. You can go from Manchester. And so they're kind of selling it on that. So they're knocking an economic base for London. Actually, this is about then Londoners can work in Manchester, so it helps reduce traffic, lots of stuff. They're also, because it's an electric train, they're saying this is good for the environment because we're trying to move to a carbon neutral country. I think Manchester's committed to 2030 will be carbon neutral. So it's kind of, it plays to all the buzzwords of the moment: powerhouse of the north, carbon neutral, economic drive, and it's just a crock of shit, to be perfectly frank. The initial quote when this was voted in Parliament, when the debate first happened, was at 30 billion, a huge figure. That quickly rose to around 75 billion. It then quickly rose to 160 billion. And there was a recent report done by Lord, I forget his name. There's in the Guardian article. If you type HS2 Lord something report, it will come up. They're estimating now that it's going to be around 265 billion. And not only is there an economic cost to this, there is an environmental cost to this, because most of the train line is going through very ancient woodlands from the north of of London through Buckinghamshire into Birmingham and then through Stafford and into Manchester. So there's an environmental impact. But the big thing for me is that the government is so intent on having this train line built that they've introduced something called the HS2 hybrid bill. And the hybrid bill basically gives carte blanche to the CEO of HS2 to do whatever is needed or required to ensure that the train line is put through. So the big thing is what we call CPOs, so compulsory purchase orders. And this is where they are just able to purchase any piece of land, any property. It could be yours, Charmain, it could be Janie's, it could be anybody's here, it could be a farmer's, it does not matter. If it's on that train line, your property's gone and you don't have a choice. It'll be compulsory purchased. And not only that, the kind of force that's being used by the police and by the eviction teams, where protesters are settling on people's land and saying, we're actually we're actually being in opposition to this because locals have asked us to, people whose land it used to be. And so it's a whole host of stuff. First of all, it's really shit capitalism. If you're going to be a capitalist or neoliberal, be a good one. Be a good one. Make good business decisions that make economic sense. Make money. Do these things that right. This is really shit capitalism because they were quoted 30 billion, and already the train line, not a single meter of track has been laid, and already we're up to 265 billion. Well, I don't know about you, but if I went into the fucking shop this morning and went to buy a Mars bar and looked at all the Mars bars and it said, right, 95p, and I picked it up, and by the time I got to the counter, it was a tenner. I'm like, well, are you kidding me? I'll put the Mars bar back. But no, they can't even do good capitalism. So it's really shit economically. It's really shit environmentally because it's cutting through swathes of ancient woodland. It's really shit socially because people just don't want it. You speak to the locals and they don't want it. And that cuts across all political persuasions as well. So Wendover, where I am, is a predominantly conservative town. And we've got conservatives coming down saying, we don't want this. We didn't vote for this. And then also it's set a precedent for powers that government can have in terms of overriding regulation and law with the hybrid bill. And we've just seen recently as well now that the police have been given the okay that any crime that needs to be committed in the investigation of a case is fine. So if you need to commit murder as somebody undercover, it's fine. If you need to commit something that would ordinarily be a crime, it's fine. And you just got to wonder at what point are we now moving into a semi-fascist state? And I know a lot of my friends and some of my family say, oh, it's a bit conspiracy theorist, that, Nick. And I said, well, no, actually, we're just starting to see people, it'd be okay for the police to do what they need to do. Well, that's kind of like what the SS were doing in Nazi Germany. The Nazi Germany were also overriding, all the regulations and bills that were there and just saying, no, we're doing this now. And that probably seems extreme, but that's kind of where we'll head. And it will happen without us knowing it because the rise of the right in Europe and the West is big. It's big. So it's a whole host of stuff. What I'd say to anybody is go out and check out any of the Facebook pages, Stop HS2, Resist HS2. Just do a little bit of research around the hybrid bill and then some stuff environmentally. There's loads of stuff out there. So
let's figure out what we can do. I think there's a concern about the COVID bills as well and stuff that's been going through Parliament, without us really noticing. So check all that stuff out. And thanks, Nick. Wow, you just shared so much stuff there, all really, really, really interesting. I'm sorry we've run out of time and we've not had time to listen to your poem. I'll have to get you back on the show so that we can hear some of that stuff. And thank you so much. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. Are you heading back down to the site? Are you going down there this weekend, or are you staying up north a bit longer? Yeah, you're going back. Okay.
No, I'm leaving tonight. About 5 o'clock tonight, and then we'll the whole winter.
Okay. Brilliant. Just frozen there a little bit.
Slight connection from there. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So, and now we're going to join Christina Batty. She's got the Mayan calendar update report for us for this week. I hope you enjoy.
Good morning and welcome to this Dream Spell Galactic Report for Saturday, the 16th of October. So what does the Dream Spell calendar have in store for us this week? Well, today is the 7th day of the Warrior, the Yellow Warrior Wave Spell. The 7th day of the Yellow Warrior Wave Spell is the energy of white resonant wind. So white wind energy is all around communication. It's around being the breath of spirit, about communicating clearly and with confidence, and really allowing ourselves to speak our truth and come into working with the breath, being the wind, the catalyst of change as it flows through. So we're working with that energy, and it's in the tone of resonant. So resonant is the midpoint between any of the 13-day processes. So 7 is the channel. It's like the open. You have 6 days on either side, and it's like this chasm that opens up to the 7 chakras that run down the center of the body. And it really is the center point of the process and the center point of whatever it is that we're dealing with. So there's a real potential for opportunity within the resonant. There's a potential for expression. There's a potential for magic that emerges with the resonant tone. So this is the 7th day of the Yellow Warrior Wave Spell. So we're going to be in this Yellow Warrior for the whole of the rest of this week. And the Yellow Warrior, as we were discussing last week, is all around fearlessness. It's about, again, anchoring into our truth and having the courage to be able to stand for what we believe in, to be able to question what is going on for us right now, what is happening in our external world, and to be able to anchor into that warrior energy, really having the courage, confidence, and there's an honor and a deep presence with warrior energy. It's like really owning our space. So allowing more and more of that energy to come through and flood into our world, but also being able to see where we're not in alignment with that energy and allowing ourselves to do that beautiful inner work to help us come more and more into resonance with it. So we'll be in this all the way through to next Friday. And then next Saturday, we'll be shifting into a brand new energy, and which will be beginning of the final 9-month of this 9-month process. So wishing you a beautiful, beautiful week. I hope you have a wonderful end to this Warrior Wave spell, and I look forward to catching up with you next Saturday. Take care. Bye. Good morning and
And thank you so much, Christina. It's great to catch up on what's happening there in the Mayan calendar. And Christina will be back again next week with next week's update. And big thanks again to Nick Napier, also known as the Lousy Badger, who's just shared some really, really interesting stuff with us. And hopefully we'll get him back on the show sometime because there's so much more to talk about. And now we are going to be joined by our second guest, who we have here. We've got Gary Washington. Hi, Gary. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Oh,
I saw
thank
you
you.
yesterday, in the upstairs.
Yesterday.
Remember yesterday? You were in the upstairs in the living room.
Yeah.
I was like,
it's always good to see you. And you're actually from the USA and from New Orleans. Is that where you were born? Is that where you?
I was born in Perth Amboy, New Jersey. It's basically an island across from Staten Island.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. And were you drawn to New Orleans for your music? For
music, I remember. Yeah, definitely music. Artistically, the type of person I am, I'm a pure artist. So in the sense of I just, New Orleans, like there's music everywhere, it's like you breathe music in New Orleans, and it just really fit at the time. It really fit my, just fit me. I just always wanted to play out. I just was like, I had this curiosity of just exploring artistically by just doing, and New Orleans gives you ample opportunity to do that. Definitely.
Wow. What age were you when you discovered that's what you wanted to be and that's what you wanted to do? Is it something that was in your family, or did you find it somewhere else?
Music in general?
Mm.
My father played the bass and the tuba. So he was just like, he really gave me my passion for me. Well, I don't know if someone can give you a passion, but he definitely influenced me. I remember being like 5, and I was like, Dad was like, "Hey, I'm gonna get you a drum set." I'm still waiting on that drum set. And then I remember the first opportunity that I had to play music, I was just there like a fly to the light. But the first time I attempted, I wasn't like allowed into the strings program. It was like the 4th grade. But by the 5th grade, it was like I was in there, and I chose the violin, and yeah, the rest is history.
Wow. So you play the cello. That's what I know you for, playing the cello, but you play other instruments as well. So you started off with violin and did that.
Yeah, I started off on violin. Then shortly after violin, this guy, I went to middle school, and then this guy, if you have middle school here,
Not really.
well, middle school was between the 6th and 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So I got in the 6th grade, and the guy who was a senior was in 8th grade, about to transition into high school. So he was like, "Well, you're the only guy in the class, so you have to play the upright bass."
Right.
And I was like, not really wanting to play the bass, because the bass part at that time was really boring. In like 6th grade, all you're doing is pump. The violin was like, but finally, I got on the bass. So I played both bass and violin, but then there was this opportunity to take private lessons that you had to audition for, and there were 2 ladies, well, 2 girls, I think I said girls at the time. They played violin. So the only opportunities they had, teachers they had, was a cello teacher, a violin teacher, a vocal teacher, and a piano teacher, and the cello. Yeah, I don't know if I said cello, but I auditioned on bass and violin, and they put me on cello.
Yeah. You were put on it.
And they just put me on it, because I guess they figured, if you already have 2 girls that play violin, let's just put him on cello, and make a trio so we can play chamber music.
Wow. So I suppose you had to make friends with it, really, and get used to it.
I remember being in school, like learning to strike. Okay, C, because violin is like G, D, G, D, A, E, and I remember like, okay, C, G, D, A, and remembering like the fingering system is different, and just like trying to learn it really quick. And I had a really strict teacher, so it was just like, but yeah, I was studying privately since I was like 13, 11, like that. I would have to actually do the math.
Wow.
I studied cello for a minute.
And how disciplined were you? Was it something that you wanted to do, or did you have to be made to do it like some kids are?
Like, I mean, I was very disciplined. Like, I mean, I remember like in elementary school, when summertime came, I didn't own a violin. So I remember just like trying to like practice just air violin. And I remember like being in the house, not having a cello, and like having like a trash can and like a mop or something, and just like pretending to play, but just trying to like make sure like I could remember how to play. And I remember like when I bought my first cello, I was like cutting grass and cutting yards. Yeah, I was always very dedicated. Always very dedicated.
That is so sweet. Making your own little cello, that's lovely. And how long have you been over here? I don't know much about your journey and coming over from the States and landing over here in in the UK, and sort of, yeah, I'm just curious about whether it's your career that's brought you over here, or I don't know what. And how long have you been here? What's been happening there? Frozen.
So can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back now. You just froze them for a minute.
All right. So basically, like, I started coming here. Internet connection is unstable.
Yeah, it's
Okay, is it back?
Yeah, you're here.
So basically, I started coming here last summer,
Right.
and I came here like in like July or June or something like that. I came with a band doing this tour like all over the UK. Like we played in like Newcastle, we played the Edinburgh Jazz Festival, we played like in Leeds, in London, Istanbul. Like we played like all kind of places. We played in Ireland, like Dublin, Galway, like just all over. And at the time I was in a relationship, my girlfriend lived in Manchester, well lives, but my ex. And I was like, I stayed with her. And I would come here. I came here like last year I came here like twice from the US, right? Like I came here the first time just to like be here, and then I came again and I did like a tour like with my own music, and I played like in Blackburn, I played in Manchester, and I just did some open mic stuff. And I was like, man, like I always like coming to the UK was always very, and is just very, I feel like I feel like I can fully be myself here. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's different from like in New Orleans, because New Orleans, there's music everywhere. You know what I mean? There's music all the time. But the thing about it is that like, it's a bunch of bars. So like, in most cases, I'm not saying there's no performances. Of course there are performances, but usually you're making your living playing in bars to drunk people. Like, I mean, that's a very extreme example, but usually it's like about hedonism, which is cool. I'm not tripping, but like at a certain point, it's like, you know, you playing the gig and everyone wants to hear the Saints and everyone wants to, you know, you have to kind of do the same thing over and over again to survive. And not there's anything wrong with that, but at a certain point, I realized that it started to kill my creativity, because it's just like, man, I want to do some I want to write orchestral stuff, or I want to do, I was doing that. I was doing all of that stuff I'm doing here, but it's just that like, it's like the culture is different. It's more about like, I don't know. It's just more about playing into that like role of like playing for the tourists. You know what I mean? And that's like the main thing. And if you're outside of that, you're definitely on the outskirts. I feel like here, I can like fully be myself, like, and just do what I love and just be accepted for who I am, as opposed to always trying to like go to like and just play for you know, just play in that way and just like and get uninspired, you know. But at the same time, there's like a lot of inspiration in New Orleans, because like there's so much culture, there's so much spirit, there's so much soul. Like you got kids playing on buckets with so much soul, you know what I mean? You got bands on the street just playing, like it's beautiful. But like when it comes for me for like really being fully myself, it's difficult. So like being here, I feel like I can fully express myself, and I really absolutely love it.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. And what does that involve? Like, how do you describe that in your style and what it is that you're expressing in your music? So I know you write and perform, but yeah, can you tell us a little bit about how you describe that?
So basically, like, I play the bass, the electric upright. I play the tenor banjo, and I play the cello. And so that's what I do. That's what a lot of people know me as, right?
Yeah.
Here, like if I'm in New Orleans, it's like, okay, Gary, you're a bass player, you're a cellist, and you're a tenor banjo player. And you also do the orchestra stuff, but I don't, you know, that's whatever. But like here, it's like people look at me as, oh, Gary, he writes and he does this. and then he plays instruments too. But it's just flipped. And what it entails is, I'm a string player. I play the cello, and I'm classically trained, but I sort of created my own techniques. You know what I mean? But these techniques were created because I lived in New Orleans, right? I do a lot of different things because I played the tenor banjo. I played within like a lot of different configurations within New Orleans because that's all you do in New Orleans. You just play. So like I took all those experiences and all of those attributes and just put it on the cello. You know what I mean? Yeah. So when it comes to writing, I also bring all those experiences within my writing. So it may not be like, I may write something that is quote unquote traditional within a particular tradition, or I could just go off and write something totally like not traditional, you know what I mean? But just based off the influences that I have. Yeah. You know? And I don't know, to describe it, it would be difficult, but like, I guess I could say that like, what I do is like, in terms of writing, I'm trained classically, so I played a lot of Shostakovich and like 20th century music, and a lot of different from classical to Baroque. I've also played a lot of straight ahead traditional New Orleans music, music of John Coltrane, music of Thelonious Monk, music of gospel music like soul, just all different types of styles, and I put that in all my music that I write. Yes, and also with playing cello, also all of those influences, I put it in the cello. So that's pretty much what I do. Yeah, just express myself with what I've learned through the years, and I'm still learning. Yeah, so.
Wow, amazing! Because you composed the piece that we played in from last night. That was streamed last night with Yemi singing there. Yeah, I watched that. Just incredible, man. Like really, really amazing. If anybody wants to see that, it's on the Niamos group page. There's a link there to watch last night's show, and with your work on there, it was just great. It's really great. And you're gonna play for us today. Piece for us this morning, which should be absolutely brilliant. So what is it you're going to share with us?
I'm gonna play a really relaxed tune. It's called "Way Down Yonder" in New Orleans.
Way down yonder.
Way down yonder in New Orleans. Well, New Orleans, that's it. But I'm gonna play that. I'm just gonna pluck because it's like the weather is just so great.
We're having the grey version.
But it's a happy song. It's a happy song. And so yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Gary. And thank you.
How does that sound?
Do it again? That's fine. Yeah, sounds fine. Can you hear me? Aha, here we go. Gary, that's brilliant. I know that tune. I didn't know it was called that. That was really good. Yeah. Do you ever sing as well? Do you ever sing?
I do.
Ah.
I would have sang that one, but it's just my voice doesn't feel so well this morning.
Yeah. I was just curious about that. Thank you so much. Thank you. And before we bring the show to a close, can you share like what you've got going on? Like, where can people find your work? Have you got any events coming up people can know about?
Yeah, the suite. The piece that we played last night will be out like the end of this month.
Okay.
That Transcendental Suite. But in terms of what I'm working on a plethora of ideas. Like, I'm working on like a lot, like stuff for full orchestra, like multi movements. I'm working on a cello concerto. I'm working on like this soul project that's like just like production. I'm working on like this like straight ahead thing where like I play like ballads. I think I'm gonna get Sam Davis do some like cello playing with a band. I'm working on all that, so all that stuff will definitely be happening. But I guess if you follow me on my socials, I'll definitely be posting about all those little things that I'm doing. But
That's
yeah.
brilliant. So you're going to be around for a while, Gary? You're going to be staying in the UK for a little bit?
Yeah, that's a plan. That's what we're working on.
Superb. That's brilliant. Well, thank you so much for being here. And just watch out for what you've got coming up, and it's exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
Exciting. Thank you so much. And that brings our show to an end for this week. It's been great. I really enjoyed it today. And I just wanted to mention a meeting that's coming up on Wednesday night. So Paul Baker is going to be joining me in a little second.
Yeah,
Paul, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Hi, Paul. Hi, good to see you. So you were telling me about there's a meeting coming up on Wednesday. Just tell us a little bit about you, Paul, and what you do and what this group is and what the meeting's about.
Yeah, NIMOS has a wellbeing space called the Living Room, and the basic idea is to try to use that creative, positive energy that's in that radical community centre and reach out to